So it's come to my attention that I've never actually made an updated Season 2 guide for the Glaive Tempest build for Havoc Demon Hunter. So today, we're going to do that. So what is the Glaive Tempest build? Well, the Glaive Tempest build is as follows. Now you can find the import code in the description, but basically it's a build that is more single target focused in a Mythic Plus environment. It also works very well at lower pull counts, or in a situation where you can't get that massive burst damage, well, massive in quotation marks, that you would get from something like Spread Eagle. Its damage mostly comes from having Cycle of Hatred and Shadow Destiny, allowing you to get I-Beam on a very short cooldown and letting you get 2 Death Sweeps in every single I-Beam window. On top of that, you have the Essence Break window every 40 seconds, and you also have Glaive Tempest, just for some strong, consistent damage outside of that. Now this build works very well if you're still gearing for raid. I know we're pretty late in the season at this point, but the stats it wants are very similar to the raid build. The items you want are very similar to the raid build. And in dungeons like Neltharian's Lair or Vortex Pinnacle or even some high tyrannical keys, this build does very well. There's a lot more single target damage. There's a lot of very small target burst damage with Glaive Tempest and I-Beam and all that stuff. So if you're doing lower keys, if you're doing things in Vortex Pinnacle or Nel's Lair, if you're doing really high tyrannical keys, or if you don't like the momentum talent, then this build is going to be for you. Now, I will say you still have to Fel Rush around with Unbound Chaos, and you still have to do your backflip with Tactical Retreat, but you don't have momentum, you are Fel Rushing a lot less. Now, there is one talent point you can move around. This improved Fel Rush point here can go really anywhere. Improved Fel Rush is generally the best option for the most AoE damage. You can put an option, you put a point up in Netherwalk if you'd like for an immunity. You can put a point down into Isolated Prey for more single target damage, or you could put a point in something like Growing Inferno. I wouldn't recommend doing that. I would say one of these 3 is going to be your best bet. This is the most AoE damage, this is the most single target damage, and then this is just for survivability, but most of the time you'll just slot that point into Improved Fel Rush. Now I will say if it is a Sanguine week, you can slot that point into Mortal Dance. Mortal Dance is very useful on Sanguine weeks, but in general, throw that down here. Otherwise though, there's not too much else to say about this build in terms of talent points. It's a lot of the stuff you've seen already for Havoc. This tree over here can be swapped around a bit as well. You don't really need Bouncing Glaives. You can change that for something like Unleashed Power or a Shorter Darkness or something like that. But realistically, there's some choices for you around, but this build is very solid, and this build can do some very solid and decent single target damage. Alright, so we'll do a quick little rotation for this build. Now this build is probably the simplest of the Havoc Demon Hunter builds. There's only a few different complexities in terms of the retreat and a little bit of Fel Rushing and all that stuff. But again, as you enter the combat with a pack, start off with Digital Flame, use your Immolation Aura, Fel Rush through, I-Beam, drop a Glaive Tempest, Annihilation, Backflip, Essence Break, Death Sweep, Meta, Death Sweep, Annihilation, I-Beam, and then use the Hunt. From here, it's really simple. You're just going to be using all your buttons as they light up, basically. Using your Death Sweeps, using your Glaive Tempest. You try not to use your Glaive Tempest during an Essence Break window. You want to use it before or after. Don't use it during, obviously. But otherwise, you're just sitting here, you're just pushing all your buttons on cooldown, trying to fit 2 Death Sweeps in every single I-Beam. So you want to use Death Sweep basically as your very first GCD. But as you can see here, it is not a very complex rotation. I'm just sitting in on the pack. I'm just pushing literally every button as it lights up. And I'm basically just doing pretty decent damage. So nothing too crazy here. Pretty simplistic rotation, very similar to how it was back in older variations of the spec, not before Dragonflight. You don't even have to worry about things like momentum or anything like that. You're just Fel Rushing through, you're doing your flips every 20 seconds, generating your Fury with Sigil or Fellblade whenever it comes up, and just otherwise just pushing your Chaos Strikes in your primary target and just kind of blasting on the pack. So with a little rotation and talent section out of the way, let's talk about stats. Now this build is especially good for people who are still gearing because it loves to have both Critical Strike and a Haste. Those are going to be your best 2 stats, with Critical Strike coming out on top and Haste slightly after that. Mastery is also a very good stat for this. A lot of your damage is Mastery, Chaos Strike, Glaive Tempest, I-Beam, First Blood, Trail of Ruin, all that stuff is chaos damage, so mastery is very, very good. And then finally, versatility falls in pretty much dead last for this build. If you want that survivability, then you can swap mastery and some haste versatility, but this is not like Spread Eagle build. The other stats are going to be a bit better for you. Again, though, all the stats are relatively equal. Critical Strike is very far ahead, but haste, mastery, and verse aren't that far apart that's going to like make or break your build. Obviously, haste is better, mastery is roughly third, and versatility is roughly fourth. But again, it's always best to sim yourself. So sim yourself, see what your sim says. In general, these are the best stats. In terms of trinkets, well, your best one is going to be Beacon to the Beyond. Unlike the Spread Eagle builds or the 3-minute burst builds, you do have some 3-minute burst damage, but it's not the most important part of your kit, and Beacon is just a very powerful tool when you can use it. To pair with Beacon, you definitely want a passive trinket. Options include Ominous Chromatic Essence, which is probably the best one, especially if you get buffs or give buffs to your allies. Neltharin's Call to Chaos is solid and a fine option, especially if you have it on the Mythic track. And then Harlan Loaded Dice is, again, a pretty good option, just giving you some nice Critical Strike, Haste, and Mastery, all stats we want. But again, Ominous Chromatic Essence, probably your best bet. Other strong options include Iridia's Fragment or Mirror of Torment if you don't have a beacon. I did say that there isn't as much burst damage here around 3 minutes, and that is true, but you still end up doing a pretty sizable amount of damage every 3 minutes just because of how, you know, Inner Demon and all the I-beams and the Essence Break stuff works. So if you do end up having like no beacon, then you can go with one of those 3-minute trinkets. Another interesting one in certain dungeons like Vortex Pinnacle or Neltharin's Lair, where you can just chain pull basically the entire dungeon and basically keep up combat most of the time, it's going to be Elementium Pocket Anvil. This is going to be pretty interesting and strong if you need that single target damage, if you want that single target focus. Elementium Pocket Anvil, keeping at maximum 5 stacks if you have it like Mythic or something, can end up doing a very sizable amount of damage should it proc. Now again, this is just a single target proc. It can't proc an AoE because Chaos Strike doesn't end up hitting AoE, so it is definitely worse than the other options. But should you have nothing else, it does do some sizable single target damage, and keeping it up over the course of the entire dungeon can make it very, very strong. Just having it that 5 stacks the whole time does a lot of damage with it. For consumables, basically just use Critical Strike things, use Critical Strike enchants, Critical Strike gems. You want to use Sophic Devotion on your weapons. You can use Wafting if you're lazy, 1 Wafting, 1 Sophic, because that is also good for raid. But, you know, Sophic is generally better in Mythic Plus. Enchant your chest with the Waking stats. Nothing too crazy here. Embellishments, you want Toxic Thorn foot wraps and a piece with the Toxic Armor patch on it. Again, those are just going to be your best in every single scenario. And really just aim towards getting Critical Strike and Haste gear, or Critical Strike and Mastery gear from the rest of your slots and the rest of your free crafts. The Time Strike weapon is also very good here as an offhand because it can proc an AoE, but if you don't have that, then 2 447 weapons, also very, very strong. So to recap, again, best trinket is going to be Beacon with Ominous Chromatic Essence. Just grab a bunch of Haste and Critical Strike stuff, enchant with crit stuff, craft boots with Toxic Thorn, and then a pant with the Toxic Armor patch, and you will be all set and good to go. So that is going to be my quick little Glaive Tempest primer guide for Mythic Plus. Again, this build can do well, and it is a lot easier than a lot of other builds. So if you're newer to Havoc, you're doing some lower keys, or you're really focusing on single target damage, or doing some keys where there's not really a lot of big AoE and your tank's pulling kind of slowly, then this build can and will do very well. Now I have a build guide for Spread Eagle as well, and I have like a generic Mythic Plus build guide, but hopefully this helped a little bit and gave a bit more focused direction and information on the Glaive Tempest build for those of you still doing Mythic Plus on Havoc, or those of you looking to pick it up as an alt maybe. Now, I think there's a little bit of bright spot for Havoc in the future. We have had a little bit of communication from the devs. I might do a video on that next week, but if you enjoyed the video so far, make sure you hit the subscribe button, drop a like, drop a comment, consider becoming a channel member to support me in making more videos, and of course, scroll down to the description, follow me on Twitch where I stream 3 to 4 to 5 times a week, and follow me on Discord. Come join my Discord, hang out there. Pretty cool guys, come ask questions and all that stuff. So again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys on Monday with my next video. Peace. A big thank you to my channel members: 121, Payne, Andrew Kunel, Joshua O'Connell, Brad Wisniak, Zuligan, James, Oxclamation, It's Bulk, Flapjack67, Angelo, and Spaghetti. A big shout out to all you guys. Thank you guys so much for all the help. If you want to become a channel member and help support me, maybe make better and better videos, or just work on getting new stuff out, you also get exclusive perks, exclusive access to parts of my Discord, exclusive access to VOD review, some scripts, exclusive emotes, stuff like that. And then consider following the link in the description, become a channel member, and helping me out. Of course, you don't have to, but I really appreciate it. Anyways, thank you for watching the video, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.